What's going on, people? It's Ricardo Francis, aka Ricardo Lifting here. Now you see the title of this video. So this video is really to elaborate what was spoken about last time in the last video. So the last video I mentioned pricing within the industry with personal trainers and online coaches, and pretty much what they charge, what value you get for the price that you pay. So this video is really talking about why coaches charge what they charge, all the incurring costs, and things that people don't think about, that's not on the surface level, that's actually underlying, and why coaches actually have to charge what they charge, because many people deem prices to be quite expensive in reality, but it's expensive in relation to what exactly. So in this video I'm just going to really break down everything that kind of can be included in the price. So first we're going to talk about personal training. Now in the last video I explained how your lower end coach would charge about 25 to 30 pound an hour. Now the reason I say lower end coach, someone who's very new, someone who's just trying to get clients and bring their business off the ground, is because of the hours they're actually doing. So with personal training, especially in a gym, one-to-one personal training, there are things to consider. So firstly, what model are they on? Are they doing hours for the gym? Are they paying a rental fee for the gym? Or are they doing a combination of both? So most gyms will have one, the other, or both. So the hours that they can do could range from 8 hours up to maybe 20 hours a week. Now those hours could be, in some cases they're not paid hours, in some cases they are paid hours. In some cases, people pay a monthly, personal trainers pay a monthly rental fee of, anywhere from £400 to maybe £1,000 a month, just to be able to personal train clients in that gym. And then sometimes there's a combination. Some may do hours, not getting paid for their hours and then pay rent. Some personal trainers might do hours, get paid for the hours, but then pay rent. So there can be a combination of those things. And because of that fact, you have to charge accordingly, otherwise it's not worth it. So let's say I'm a personal trainer, I've got a few clients, I've got up to 10 clients a week, and I'm on that lower end scale, I'm not so established. Now on a lower end scale personal trainer, charging at £30 an hour, for instance, just to keep the numbers nice and simple. So at £30 an hour, 10 hours worth of personal training a week, that's £300 a week. That's £1,200 a month. Now it's not a lot, but it's not a lot of hours. So some people might say, that's quite good for only working 10 hours a week. But reality is they might not be working 10 hours a week. Reality is, okay, they might do 10 hours a week for the gym, and just for simplicity, that 10 hours is unpaid. They don't have to pay a rent, but it's unpaid 10 hours a week. So really they're working 20 hours a week and getting paid £300 a week, which is 1,200 a month. So now 20 hours a week for that price, which is very comparable to working a 9 to 5, in all honesty, part-time job. Now I've taken into consideration them working hours in the gym and their personal training. I haven't actually taken into consideration other factors. So you actually have to think of other factors such as paperwork, admin work. When I say admin work, personal trainers pay their own taxes because they're self-employed. Even if they're working hours for the gym, the hours of personal training most times is a self-employed role, so they have to do their own taxes. They have to make programs and design programs. They have to make templates for nutrition, or they have to do coaching into nutrition. They might be doing further study. They might have a client with a certain illness, a disease, an injury, condition, whatever it may be, and all of that encompasses into the price. On top of that, they would have put in hours to get that client. They didn't just say, see the client, get the client, start the client. Most times they have to build rapport with the client. Every time they have to have a touch point, every time they have to build value, probably helping that client with their workouts, making conversation to build up that rapport. But that again is time. So for your experienced trainer, you'll probably do 1 hour's worth of, let's say, background work per 1 hour of personal training that you do. for someone who's very new. Now, someone who's more experienced might have refined their process, and it might be half an hour per hour of personal training. If they're really good, maybe 15 minutes versus versus the hour worth of personal training. But let's just say, for simplicity's sake, they've got it down to half an hour because they've been doing it for a little while. They've refined their process a little bit better. So let's say 10 hours worth of personal training, 10 hours worth of fitness coach work, working in the gym, etc. And then that means another 5 hours of admin work, let's say, background work, etc. So that's another 25 hours, still at that same £300 a week. That's 1,200 a month. So 25 hours. So now it's not looking so great. Yeah, let's say 40 hours a week, 10 hours is working for the gym. So that's 30 hours a week. And it takes half the time of admin work as it does for personal training. So that's 20 hours worth of personal training, 10 hours of admin work, 10 hours of working for the gym. So that's 40 hours in total, yeah? So that's 30 times 20, just £600. 600, 1,200, 2,400, which seems like decent money. For anybody, it seems like, 2,400 is pretty good. And it is pretty good. But then again, you have to take into consideration, they have to pay tax on top of that. So you pay tax on top of that, and now you're actually thinking, well, the work that I have to do in order to get this money, I probably could do a 9 to 5. It'd be less stressful and a lot less work, and I can make similar money. And that is the reality. That's why you would find that personal trainers won't charge so little once they've established themselves, once they've got themselves up into a level. And it's a lot harder to start bringing up your prices when you've got a full client base than when you're getting new clients, if that makes sense. Secondly, personal training most times is self-employed. Now, if you are self-employed, you're an entrepreneur, you don't do it to work more hours. You don't do it to run yourself to work, get full-time employed money. You want to be able to make more money. So the reality is, you want to create more time to allow you to do more stuff, which may include things that actually contribute to your business, but it still needs more time. So you might, a lot of good coaches and personal trainers will probably reinvest their time into and their money into probably doing courses, further educating themselves, whether it be upgrading on nutrition, training principles, mobility, injury work, pre-postnatal, whatever it may be. They're probably going to upskill themselves, especially if they're that higher level coach, just to create more value. So that's time and money they have to compensate, and that time has to come from somewhere, and that money has to come from somewhere ultimately. So therefore, they're probably going to charge to be able to accommodate for that, and they want to accommodate for the best service possible, and they want to make sure that their clients are given every tool possible and great value so that they can get transformation, that they can achieve their goals, and it be a testament to their work. So they will charge that higher price and the higher rate. And that only makes sense. Now, and that's simply why I say in-person personal trainers, they probably won't charge that £30 an hour, because they realize it's a lot of work to do to be able to get a good outcome. And even the outcome isn't the greatest, because it can be compared to 9 to 5 work. So they will charge probably £40, maybe more. It all depends on catchment area as well. So you got to think, there's some areas where your price points are higher. So say £40 an hour might actually be the lowest price point. And I know some places, especially in central London, where they charge £100 an hour. So therefore you have to look at the going rate at that particular place. And that's why it's good to look into that personal trainer. Don't just think because they work in a gym that they must be qualified and they must be good, because at the end of the day, some might be very new, some might not have a testament to their work. Are they personal trainers who have had loads of clients? You've seen them in the gym, you've seen that client every single day with them, and you haven't seen them change in any way, shape or form. You haven't seen them improve in any way, shape or form. Or do they have clients where you can see their progress and their transformation throughout their journey with that personal trainer? Does that personal trainer have an online presence? If they do, what do they do online? Do they just show their workouts and exercises, or do they have testimonials? Do they have transformations? Do they bring value, with further knowledge, understanding, breakdown of different topics, etc.? So that's all the value that you'll look for when you're looking for a personal trainer. So if they are charging that higher value accordance to their catchment area, you have every right to look into those things to see if they have X, Y, and Z. What's the reason they charge that higher rate in comparison? This is just a guide. Someone might be on that lower end and be able to deliver great value, and that's great, but don't expect it. The reality is, this video is just to be able to set the expectation so you understand pricing a little bit better before you approach your coach. Now we go into your online phase. So online coaching, as I said in the last video, it can go one of two ways. It can be via your video calls, in which it will probably be quite price comparable to one-to-one in person, or you've got your programming, whether it's training someone through an app, etc. Now, when it comes to online, people have a misconception that it's easier, so it should be less, or it's easier for people to do, so it should be less. That because it's not in person and they're not getting that person-to-person experience, it should cost less. But actually, there's a lot more involved online than people think. Now, when it comes to online coaching, there are factors to consider, and coaches have to consider all these factors to be able to price accordingly. So one, you've got to think of your audience. Now, if you have an online presence, that's great, but some coaches may have to start from scratch. It means they have to build up an online presence. If they're building up their online presence, they have to make it very specific. So as much as their audience could be technically worldwide, they have to narrow that audience down to paying clients. So that means that their audience has to, one, be interested in fitness, health and fitness, and the type of services that that person provides. That's the first thing. Secondly, they can be interested in it, but you now need to consider if that person's interested enough to actually start exercising or not. Some people watch your stuff, say, yeah, that's a good idea, and not do it. So that's another thing to take into consideration. I know people that watch cooking channels, watch them make great recipes and not actually ever try to make it. So that's sometimes what you find in the fitness industry as well. Secondly, there's the objection of whether they will pay for any services, because if they're online and they train, they could be training from home, and if they train from home, they're probably watching videos, doing their own research, and not paying a penny. So they won't see the value in paying for a service. If they might have to get to that stage at a later date when they've tried everything and realize certain things aren't working, and that's when they might value it. And even then, when they get to that stage and they inquire about personal training, they probably don't know the price because they haven't stepped in a gym, they haven't inquired with anybody already, they haven't looked into the service. And to that point, they may have come across your online profile, and all of a sudden, okay, they're contacting you regarding it, but they have zero ideas of the price involved. And that's the reason I've created these videos. So I said there's a lot to consider when it comes to your audience online. The next thing online coaches have to also deal with is selling online, which is either going to be via a video call or it's going to be through picking up the phone. And I can tell you tenfold, trying to sell someone something in person versus online or over the phone is two different things. When it comes to over the phone, it reminds me of cold callers. When you get that cold call and it's just they're trying to sell you something, most times you would say no, you just put the phone down. So you have to create an atmosphere where it's no longer a cold call scenario. They've seen what you do, they can invest into you, and they trust you and they know you well enough to be able to inquire. And then you've got a sale lead. When it comes to online, you may have never spoken to that person before. As a coach, I may have never spoken to that person before, and I'm just hoping that they've watched enough material, they've looked at enough stuff that I've posted, I've created enough value for them to be able to take the plunge and actually invest in their health and invest in my services. So that's another thing online coaches have to take into consideration. What you actually find is online coaching clients tend to get better results than in person. Reason being, I think I discussed it in the last video, is when it comes to online, that person, especially when it comes to programming, services, tracking, etc., that person has to 100% commit to it. That person has invested. They know that they don't have a person on their back, but that person is still watching what they're doing. The client has to track their workouts, they have to track their food, so they're probably going to adhere to it a lot better than in person. In person, they can get away with just doing the sessions in person, but when they go home, they eat whatever they want. When it comes to sessions that they're meant to do away from that personal trainer, they're probably not doing it. And that's why I say most times online clients get better results, and that's something that needs to be considered in the price, the results. But then online, you have to be more specific with your audience. Again, you have to make sure that that person is 100% adhered to. You have to do a lot more to graft in terms of getting warm leads, a lot more than in the gym. In the gym, you already know they're at a point where they may invest because they have invested in a gym membership. So that's kind of the first step. So as I said, there's a lot more to consider. And because there's a lot more to consider, the price can be comparable to in person, if not should be more, as I said, because results tend to be better, and the groundwork you have to put towards it is a lot greater than in person. So I hope this video helps you to get a better understanding of why coaches price the way they price. And it's ideal for you to have this idea before you approach a coach or a personal trainer, so that you know what prices to expect. You know what to look for in terms of the pricing, you know what to look for in terms of the value, and then you can make an informed decision in choosing your personal trainer or coach. If you like this video, make sure you hit that like button, make sure you subscribe to the channel, comment down below if you want to see more content like this, and make sure you share this with at least one friend. Anyway, that's me. I'm out. Peace.